Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Doing business and life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. We created this show for you because we want everyone to learn how to do business and life to make an impact in the world. Who will you serve today and what impact do you want to make? Today, I have a great guest. We've been getting to know each other the last few weeks in a mastermind that we're part of. And leadership is so powerful. And we're going to learn more about that today. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to be here. I'm excited.
I am too, because the first question is going to be very interesting. Leadership's tied to, you got to start something to be a leader.
That's
Do you
right.
regret starting your own business?
Not currently, but there have certainly been days where you kind of wake up and you go, what in the world was I thinking? But yeah, I think we all go through that. We all have those moments where we kind of go, oh, scratch your head. What was I thinking? And do I want to continue to do it? Do you believe in yourself enough? All of those things. But I love what I do. And so I do not currently have any regrets of having started my own business.
Now, a business owner, CEO, founder, they're not only in regret anymore, they want to not do their business anymore because they truly regret it. What tips would you give them if they're thinking that direction?
Well, there's a couple of things to think about if you're in that space where you're kind of wondering. And the exercise that I take clients through, if they're in this space, is to start asking some questions. Well, what exactly do you not like about your business? Are there some day-to-day operational tasks that you just don't like? Because quite frankly, that's just about everybody. And it may be time to hire somebody and to look at doing that. And that's a whole nother discussion on affordability and how to hire and those kinds of things so that you're bringing in the right people into your company. But if you're dealing with customers or clients that you don't like, this happens. If you have people that are just in your ecosystem that are not working the way you think they should, you kind of have to look at that. And there's two questions. Is it them or is it you? Because if you are struggling and you're kind of the common denominator in all of those challenges, then it's time to look at yourself and say, what can you do better? And I've also had clients and know of many others who have said, I'm okay being the owner of the company. I don't need to be the CEO. And we start discovering that it's time to bring in other leadership for the company, and they still play a part. And maybe they just own the company and they're a silent partner, or maybe they play a role within the company, because part of leadership can be the expert. You are the knowledgeable person. You are the one that knows about the product or the service or the industry, but you may not be the right person to lead. And that is where a lot of business owners will get tripped up as they continue to grow the company. They're making money and they're profitable, but they start having to deal with things that they didn't anticipate. It's like, well, how am I going to get over these hurdles? And it starts by just pinpointing exactly what it is. And you kind of have to go through, I call it the calendar exercise. Okay, let's look at last week. What were all the things that you did? Rate them 1 to 10, 1 to 5, whatever scale you want. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What was it? And I go even one step further. What exactly was it about that exercise, that task, that whatever to-do item you had in that spot? What was it that you didn't like about it? And you do that throughout the course of the week. And sometimes you have to go even longer. You have to go over a month, and you have to keep categorizing all of these things. Okay, here's what we're finding. You don't like working directly with people, or you don't like dealing with the finances or sales, or you like to create the product, but you don't necessarily want to have to worry about fulfilling it. I don't want to worry about trying to get it shipped out to somebody and worry about all those kinds of things. And so you keep just kind of working it down to, what are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? What are you willing to delegate? And that opens up a whole other discussion about how to delegate properly, because that's another big issue for leaders when they are hiring and they have to start delegating, is how to do that task of delegating properly. So that's a lot to chew on for here, just the first question. But yeah, that's a big one for business owners in that situation.
No, I well said, because leadership doesn't mean you know it all and have to know
That's
it all,
right.
which is what you're saying. So what came to mind as you were talking, Shawn, is you're an outside perspective come in, and this is what you can. They also build that inside the company internally?
Absolutely. A good leader in any setting, in any level, whether they're the owner of a company or if they're mid-level management, or even if they're just a team leader, kind of in their first leadership experience, the first thing you want to try and do is, first of all, understand above, if you will. And if you are the quote unquote top person, then even then you have values, you have vision, you have mission. All of those things play into how you work with your team below. And I'm not a big fan of the top to down below and all of that kind of stuff, but that's kind of the image that we need to create. You have to be able to instill that into all of your leaders and your entire company. And that's part of what is about leadership, is learning about yourself, about what kind of leadership style you tend to lead with. And I've identified 4 different kinds. Now, I'm also one that says that there are as many leadership styles as there are people, but you got to start somewhere. And so I have 4 general categories that we start with, and then we help to identify what their kind of their predominant leadership style is most of the time. And then we teach skills about how to learn how to be dynamic, change for the situation, change for the person. And all of that can be learned. But when you're trying to build a company, it's essential that you know what your leadership style is, so that you know what other kinds of leadership styles you have to bring in to help run the company. And to have the people, whether they're beneath you in the hierarchy or not, you still have to be able to identify and develop those leadership styles.
Can a company succeed without leadership?
No, it will fall apart in a scary fashion. And leadership, again, it can be defined in a lot of different ways, but you have to have really good leadership and the right type of leadership for the right stage of your business. If we were to go chronologically and think about someone who starts the business on their own, maybe they do some type of a widget or something that they develop, and they can do it manually. They can create it by hand, if you will, a certain amount of times, but of course, eventually they're going to reach a maximum. They can only do so much. You have to start bringing other people in. When you start bringing other people in, if they're not consistent in how you are used to doing it, the product fails, the product suffers, the relationship with the customers suffer. If you're in a service-oriented environment or industry, that's almost worse, because now the customer, because you are relationship-based, and if you're not giving those customers or clients a good experience, or you're trying to delegate to somebody else who doesn't have the same values and vision that you do, it all starts to fall apart. So you have to have really good leadership and the right type of leadership at the right time.
So leadership is as important as HR departments, sales departments, marketing departments, leadership department. I just came up with something that's pretty kind of cool. Yeah,
every business should have a leadership department. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. And that's what you're saying, in a sense, that it's not more.
Yeah, and in a lot of larger companies, corporate type environments, you'll have people, usually in HR, that are tasked with that. Or you may have a chief people officer or something like that, where that's what they do. They spend their whole time every day looking at ways to develop the people within the organization. In a smaller business environment, either a small business or micro business, the business owner needs to play that role, or at the very least, like we talked about a minute ago, delegate that to somebody else. It could be the COO, it could be the HR person that you bring in. Sometimes, like myself, you might bring in an outside consultant to help. But the idea here is simply, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with leadership, reach out to somebody and get some guidance on how you can do it better.
Yeah, I like that, because you can't be there forever, whoever you've hired to consult. And you don't want to be. You want to get them, and then if they need you to come back years, you'll follow up and down the road. A real good friend of mine, Lieutenant Oak McCullough, says that if you tell me you're a leader, he asks one question: who are you mentoring? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I like that a lot. Mentoring is, by the purest definition, it's someone who's kind of walked that path ahead of you. And that can, it's difficult because we're all trying to forge our own path. And especially in this day and age where things change so rapidly and technology changes so rapidly, it can be difficult to find a mentor that has truly walked the path before you. But you can find, and I'm one that says, if you've got the capacity, get several mentors. Get a few people that have maybe walked a path similar to yours. Maybe it's somebody who's had a lot of leadership, somebody who's been in your industry, somebody that can kind of give you a little bit of guidance in a lot of different ways to kind of give you what I would call a three-dimensional look at where you're trying to go. Because in this day and age, I don't know how business is any business can really grow and thrive
Right.
without some guidance from an outside source, whether it's a consultant, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, or just some general advisors. It's really important to have some people to surround you. I call that a board of advisors, and people that can really help you with your business. You don't always have to be paying these people. You can, and some do require a payment. But in a lot of cases, if you get the right people around you, it doesn't need to cost you a lot of money, but they can provide invaluable assistance and guidance.
I love that, because guidance to me is such a big word. Do you want to be guiding or telling?
Right. Right.
And that's what you were saying here. I don't want to turn the tables a little bit here,
Yeah.
because we talked about regret in the beginning, but did you regret stop playing baseball in high school?
Yes. I did.
And why is that?
I did. So here's the quick story. I loved playing baseball, and it was on the junior varsity team in high school in Oregon. And then my dad got transferred and we moved to Wyoming. And so the last 2 years of high school for me were in Wyoming, and they didn't have a high school team. And so I didn't really have a chance to play. And so I didn't, there's just no opportunity. Well, then after my senior year, I had an opportunity to play what's called Legion ball, which is summer ball, basically. And I didn't do it. And my thought process was, boy, it's been 2 years. I haven't even picked up a bat. I've hardly picked up a ball. Can I even throw? I'm out of, when I say out of shape, baseball shape. I was in good shape generally because I continued to play football during those 2 years because they had a football program. But I look back on that and I go, Shawn, it's not like you were, trying out for the Phillies or something. You were just go play and just try and have fun with it. Even if you aren't as good as you used to be. And I don't know that I was ever that great, but to that level, it would have been just a fun experience to get back into it. And it's a good lesson. It's a little bit of a harsh lesson, but it has reminded me that we always regret the things we don't do. We don't try to do. So what if I had been as good? I would have had fun playing. And so that's a regret for me.
No, I'm glad we had that question, because there's such a transition and bridge between sports and business. Let's relate that to business. And you kind of delved into it, but get into that. Business owners said 10 years ago, I wish I made this move. How they handle that as a leader?
It can be a real challenge to absorb what you've learned in the past, sometimes in a tough lesson, sometimes a painful lesson. I'm going to quote a friend of mine who shared this with me a couple of months ago, actually. His name is Seth Saunders. And he said, failure, if you will, or regret, you need to treat it like mouthwash. You put it in your mouth, swish it around, kind of let it do its thing, but don't swallow it, spit it back out. But use it for what it's for, but don't hold on to it. And I love that imagery of just saying, okay, let's absorb it a little bit, let's learn from it, but don't hold on to it, don't swallow it, spit it back out and move forward. And that's easier said than done for a lot of things, especially if it's an especially painful regret. But again, I am one that says better to have tried and failed than not to have tried at all. And so be willing to take some calculated risks. And, there's some science to that, and there's some intuition in that as well about when to take a calculated risk and when to say, okay, let's just try it and see what happens. I am a big, big believer that there is no such thing as failure as long as you learn a lesson. And for me, going back to the baseball story, the lesson was simply, Shawn, from now on, just remember, you kind of regretted not even trying. So from now on, just try. Just try. Give it a shot. We all have to learn things, kind of that from the good old Bible there, the line upon line, precept upon precept, just one step at a time. You and I, before we started the podcast, we just did this. You were very helpful in giving me some advice on a podcast that I have on how to make it a little bit better. And it's okay. It's one more step to make it better. So let those regrets or those failures, whatever you choose to call them, not think about them that way, but learning experiences and keep growing. That's really essential in a business, especially if you're struggling a little bit and contemplating shutting it down.
And you just said it. I tell people get better 1% every day, whatever that is. Meet more people, marketing, whatever it is, and growth will come because you're adding to the growth. Right. And there is research on decision making. If you don't make a decision or indecision, you can't do it because you can't make the if you're indecisive, and I think that's a big problem with business owners today, especially with COVID and everything.
Yes.
Just make the decision. I love how you said that, and fall where it may, and then you just pivot, and do something different.
Yeah. There's a principle, and this is something that I work with clients a lot on. Emotional resilience, especially as a leader and as a business owner, is critical. But if I were to phrase it this way, when I think about emotional resilience, it's the confidence in yourself and your team, especially your team. And this is what a really good leader will do, is to just in their mind think there is not a problem that comes up that we cannot solve when we work together.
Yeah.
And there is always a solution to a problem that comes up. It can be scary because it often requires us to think differently or to look elsewhere or ask for help, which a lot of us struggle sometimes of reaching out and asking for help. But that emotional resilience to be able to say, I know we're going to get through it and I know we're going to figure it out. And it's as simple as that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice. Sometimes you have to go through the school of hard knocks to build that confidence in yourself, but it's there.
Yeah. I'm reading the book with my best friend, The Atomic Habits by James Clear. And we get some emails. How important are these habits with leadership?
Very important. It's important to develop habits. It's also important to reevaluate and to make sure that from time to time, you look back and say, is this habit working for me? Because in my view, one of the things that I have fallen victim to, and I think just about everybody has in any setting, and it applies to leadership as well, but any setting, is that the routine just kind of keeps going and you end up doing this, spinning wheels. And, you know, in the weightlifting world, that phrase muscle memory, you kind of have to keep challenging your muscles a little bit. Yeah, it's good to go work out, but you got to get them to stretch and challenge those muscles or they don't grow. And so habits are very good. And so but in my view, you have to keep reevaluating, where are we going? Are we accomplishing what we set out to do? Where's our vision? And are we at a possibility kind of in a rut where we're just kind of spinning wheels a little bit? But I love the idea of setting concrete habits. There are some habits that I've developed that I still do, that I've been doing for 20 years. I like to get up early and kind of attack the day, but I also take 2 or 3 hours in the morning to be kind of Shawn time. That's when I do kind of my spiritual study and meditation and prayer. That's when I read my business books. That's when I have breakfast. That's when I work out. I spend a little time with my family. My girls are grown now, but my wife and I still have a great conversation in the morning. But that's how I start my day. And that habit, I might change little bits and pieces within it, but that habit's going to stay with me. But I think that Atomic Habits it's a great book, but it's also really good to develop good habits and then reevaluate on a regular basis.
The reevaluation, I didn't think about. I wrote it down in my notes because that's important. And I'm the same thing. I never got up early before. Now I get up at 5:15. And it's been, for me, a game changer, and for you, a game changer. But the funny thing is, habits are not for the same habits, not for everybody.
Right.
We got to be careful of that, right?
That's right. Yeah, I call it projection. I don't know if that's the technical term. Maybe it is. But sometimes we take our experience and we project it onto somebody else with the kind of almost arrogant assumption that, hey, what worked for me must therefore work for you. And in a lot of cases, it does. You can say, hey, you can try this out. But it's both on the giving end of that, to not be so arrogant as to think, well, you must do it this way. But also on the receiving end to say, okay, I'm going to take what you give, I'm going to try it out, but I might adjust it and see what works for me. And there are times when you politely have to say that doesn't work for me. I had a good friend, real quick story. I had a good friend, this is probably about 14 years ago. And I'm not a runner. And he said, oh, you're going to love running. And I was like, oh, I'm not so sure. And he said, just try it. And I did, and I didn't like it. So, and I'll run for a little while, maybe a mile or two, but I'm not he's a marathon runner. And he's fantastic at it. And he just said, you're going to get the bug. You're going to get the bug. And I just never did. Cycling, however, I do enjoy. And I need to do it more often. I've got a little more tonnage than I used to, but
know the feeling.
Cycling for me is more enjoyable than running.
And that's a great example of pick and choose what's going to work for you in your lifestyle today.
Right.
Don't try to follow somebody's habits if they don't fit you like that. Your buddy loves the marathon. You're not going to do it. That's the bottom line. You won't sustain it.
You got it. Yeah. And that's a good business application as well. You have to find those things that you are going to do. And you have to be willing to let go of those things that you're not. And that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier in the leadership capacity. Find those things that you're willing to do and that you get good positive energy from, that you're excited about doing, that you like doing, delegate the rest. That's one of the great, it's got a double-edged sword a little bit. That's one of the great privileges of being the business owner and a leader, is that you get to make those decisions. I'm going to hold on to these things. I'm going to let go of these things. And then how you let go and delegate is important. But yeah, find those things that you like doing and stick with them.
Yeah, that's great. Running out of time here, but I always like to ask this question, especially to leadership experts like you. What is the characteristics of a servant leader?
Oh, very good. A servant leader is someone who is more interested in the success of the individuals with the team than with their own success. They are someone who is anxious to see the team succeed. It's kind of that, the tide raises all boats kind of a mentality. You get better output from the team if you work with each individual. And there are some, characteristics within that. You need to have good empathy. You need to have a generous mindset, a curious mindset. You need to be willing to ask questions of the people and help them to become curious and create that safe space to grow together. But it's very much interested in the relationship that you have with each person. And not everybody is designed that way. Not everybody has that instinctive personality to really get involved with the person. You don't want to get too nosy, but at the same time, be interested in the person and help them develop. And they're going to be a better team member for you.
That's so good. We'll run out of time here. How can people get a hold of you? They want to talk more leadership with you.
Sure. You can go to the website, Blue Sky Biz Consulting. That's BIZ consulting.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Shawn J. Richards. And I always love having people connect with me on LinkedIn and learn a little bit more about what we can do to help with leadership and all of those fun things that help businesses be more successful.
I appreciate you putting out all these tips. My book is full here, my notepad. Got a lot of studying to do here. So I thank you for spending the time with us today. And audience, listen to this show again. He put out a lot of tips you may have missed. I always watch my shows 1 or 2 times extra just to pull out something. And the best thing, it's free. It's just your time. If you can get something with your time like this, take advantage of it. And I want to say I'll see all of you at the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.